believe we are right. I believe there's no question. What my point is, if the other guy has a different conception, how do we deal with it? What is the better way so that eventually we can transact business and achieve a compromise? That is the challenge. Because I don't think they will admit that we alone have the monopoly of interpreting the law properly. No, I don't think they will admit that. They have their own lawyer, they have their own experts on clause and all that. They have that. But so we are stuck in that. So on the legal front, we keep what we have to do, the question about that. But we should try other means so that there will be a multi-channel diplomacy.
Excuse me, sir. It is true that we have our own interpretation of the law as well as them.
Yeah.
That's why we have to go to the world court, in which case they don't want.
Right.
So what do you think of that?
Yeah, it's fine. As I said, at the very least, we probably can achieve, it will not achieve the solution because the other party, which is needed to the solution, doesn't want to dance with you. So I'm just saying that we have to do that. If we have to do that in terms of gaining our moral high ground on the public opinion front, that's fine. But I'm saying that it's not enough, maybe. Don't limit your option. I would say that for the sake of national interest, the more options, the better. Because in the end, just going to the court is not an end itself. Our end is to achieve the rapid development of the Philippines, catch up with the times.
You have to go to court.
And therefore, try to find a solution eventually. That's my point.
Okay, let's go to her.
Okay, I have a question. I forgot to mention in my introduction to Eric that there are two other Filipino journalists who lived in China for a long, long time with him in Beijing, and one of those is Jimmy Flor Cruz, who came to visit Toronto 3 years ago. He is the bureau chief of CNN in Beijing. And the other one is Chito Santaromana. He was the bureau chief of ABC, ABC News. So 3 Filipino student leaders who came to China, or went to China in 1971, became the bureau chief of 3 major U.S. news organizations. So in Beijing, they call them the Gang of Three. Filipino Gang of Three.
So the point is that talking about exports, we should export more journalists.
So my question is, after sharing all these insights about China, gained from decades of experience in covering China and living in China, this so-called Gang of Three, do they have any effort of, giving advice to the Philippine government to be able to better handle the relationship between China and the Philippines?
We are willing to share whatever and everything that we know about China. And the point is, if China is the enemy, we have to know the enemy exactly, how to deal with it. How can we achieve the highest art of war, so to speak? I think winning a battle with a firing a single shot is not possible. That has always been my concern. So, in the most recent example, for example, the newly appointed Deputy Foreign Secretary, Garcia, Mr. Garcia came to Beijing, and also the newly appointed ambassador to the Philippines to Beijing came, and then they invited us for talk, and we share what honestly we can share in terms of trying to achieve a breakthrough. They'd like to know more the contacts, who are the players, the foreign policy of China. We share all that. So we always do. We share whatever we can in terms of supplying all the information that will be contribute to the decision making, more balanced and more strategic decision making of the Philippines.
Is the government listening?
You've given us a good insight as to how the Chinese mind works, and you're saying that that's the key towards getting into settlement, a speedy settlement with China. But then there are other players that are involved, not only the Philippines probably are not as perceived as the Philippines is as an ally of the U.S. So the situation is different from us. Given that there's the Philippines and then there are the less U.S.-oriented countries involved, what do you think of the prospects of coming to a speedy settlement with China on these properties?
Peaceful settlement?
Settlement.
I think, diplomacy, foreign policy, is essentially the art of finally achieving your aim through peaceful means. So I believe that is possible. Because
I guess the question I really wanted to ask is, what do you think is the current thinking in the other countries? Meaning, do they share the same kind of analysis that you gave us about how Chinese think? And therefore, what are the prospects of these countries, the Philippines and the other players, coming to an agreement, to a settlement with China on this problem?
you mean the other claimants,
Yeah.
ASEAN, like Vietnam,
Yeah.
Malaysia is involved, but Malaysia has been quiet, not really just. In terms of achieving a group settlement, you think of that? The Chinese, they declared their preference for bilateral negotiations, and they have not been amenable to the idea of achieving group settlement, because even our claims, Vietnam and all that, they sometimes they overlap and all that. So we are dealing with a country that so far there is showing no sign that they want to change, that they're willing to enter into multilateral negotiations. They still believe that the solution can only be achieved through bilateral negotiations. Now, whether we agree to that or not is our call, but that is what the Chinese position is. So, as for their changing their mind about the prospect of that, I don't see it happening in the near future. Again, the more important thing for them is the security environment. The security environment has to be clarified, exactly. Where does Vietnam play in this game? Where does the Philippines, Japan? That's the more important concern for the Communist Party.
So given that this looks like it's going to be a protracted process, because like you said, China doesn't really want to have a big conference about it, but would rather deal individually with the other countries.
Yeah.
Given that this is a protracted process, do you think that time is on our side or not?
I am optimistic.
I think.
We just have to wait the 3 years maybe, because we can just withdraw the court. The court will give a ruling maybe, or finally 3 years, and then that will set the next stage for how to solve this problem. But in the meantime, we probably can just have to keep our move. But I'm optimistic that there will be a solution, because think about it. The interest of China and the US, there must be a way to find a solution, a win-win solution somehow.
What there?
In terms of the U.S. alignment with us, I mean, the U.S., we are more an ally of the U.S. than the U.S. is an ally of us. They will look after their own interests. The more potent tactic or strategy to do is to, well, let me ask you this question. Is the ASEAN working full-time on making their unity as an ASEAN, as ASEAN nations, more, shall we say, robust, so that we can work as one and negotiate from a position of strength? As it is now, if we try it on our own, we can't even claim Sabah. I mean, as far as it being a reality within our lifetime, Mr. Exmundo, I think you will agree with me that we'll all be dead by the time.
Ideally, from our national interest, we all, of course, we have our own preferences, and I support these preferences.
Yeah.
Ideally, we should negotiate a position of strength. Maybe ASEAN is a group body, but the reality is ASEAN is not divided. It's not a unified bloc. I mean, some friends are closer to China than others. Cambodia, for example, maybe Laos, and all this, Burma, things like that. And Thailand is even, because we're only very friendly to China, so it will not. It's not one. They don't want ASEAN to become a bloc that will unify. You confront China as one bloc. I mean, that's the reality. So we'll have to realize that. I think there are certain issues of where we can have consensus, and I think even the Chinese agree to that. You know, the initial declaration of conduct that the Chinese signed. So that's also already breakthrough. The ASEAN sometimes can play too, but I'm not
You think that's the way. I mean, you think the ASEAN members are racing to be first at the dinner table at the expense of others?
Well, let's see. The Brunei chairmanship. Apparently, the Brunei chairmanship of ASEAN may involve more active, like, you know, get the consensus on the island and at least the code of conduct, a mandatory code of conduct that will govern China and that can become presented to China as one group, so that there will be peaceful resolution of the issue. We'll see. It's still developing situation. I mean, a lot of consensus building is needed. You know, different countries have their own perception, and some countries have less stakes in the territorial dispute than others. You know, and they have $1 billion of investment from China to protect. All these interests come into play. We just have to be patient. Eventually, I hope, yeah.
Any feedback from the back there? Okay, Nila?
It's not really a question what I want to say, but more a comment or an observation. In addition to what Hermie had said earlier, that there are three, now two bureau heads of media outfits that are American outfits in China, and the third one, Chito, just retired. He's already in Manila. And there was a question that can people like you, of course, I believe so, can help help the Philippines solve issues like what we are confronted with right now, given that for 40 years you have lived in China. For many years you have known how the Chinese system is, and you are in a unique position that you are a Filipino citizen, has lived in China for so long, covering China, and working for an American top news network. And at the end of this all, I was thinking you and the two others would certainly be good resources as informants or information or economic political analysts. The same way we try to get the most of you when you're here in Toronto, and when universities have you speak about China in light of the various issues that the Philippines is confronted with its relations in China. And you could go on to become advisors, because I know that Chito, for instance, having retired, having that knowledge and about China and scale it and like it, was even shortlisted as to be an ambassador to China, to be able to help deal with Philippines-China relations. We see you as also some kind of a similar resource for that thing. So I guess it could be mind-boggling to think that you're a Filipino, having lived in China for 40 years, hired by an American media outfit, and being in a position to share with us all those knowledge and insights, and also be in a position in future or even now to share with the Philippines.
So now it's just a question of getting the Philippines to listen to him.
To them.
Yeah.
Advisory decision.
As again, I said, we always want to share, like I share with the whoever come to town in Beijing, officials, and many of these officials are all contemporaries anyway, they're the same generation. We share, and they know, of course, our long years in China and what